Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Since 6 p.m. this evening, this Board of Education has been in closed session for appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district. Litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular district has been filed or is pending before a court or administrative tribunal. And finally, the setting of a price or sale or lease of property owned by the district. And if I would like to entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
Second.
A motion and a second to come out of closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, either on the World Wide Web or in person. We enjoy your company either way. And if I can just review our all very, very important mission: to educate students to be self-directed learners, collaborative workers, complex thinkers, quality producers, and community contributors. And with that, I will ask our board secretary for a roll call, please.
Board members present: Donna Wanke, Susan Price, Terry Fielden, Jackie Romberg, Kristen Fitzgerald, Mike Yench, and Susan Crotty.
Thank you. And I will turn this over to our superintendent for some good news.
Good news. I guess I will share with you that school's begun, so we will look to our recognition of students once we get to our business meeting. I will share with you, though, I do need to share with you information about Thursday, September 4th. We host our volunteer kickoff leadership breakfast, but I want to call to the board's attention that we will not be necessarily, as an administration, showing favoritism toward Naperville North at that meeting. And I'll read something for you that has gone out in our Talk 203s. Thursday, September 4th is National Hunger Action Day. People across the nation are asked to wear orange in support of hunger relief. And did you know that 42% of the individuals served by local food pantry Loaves and Fishes are under the age of 18? Please consider supporting hunger awareness efforts of Naperville and our surrounding communities by having your children wear orange to school on Thursday, September 4th. For additional information on local hunger awareness efforts during the month of September, including our Naperville Food Drive, please visit www.jumpforfood.com. So those of us that will be attending the Leadership Kickoff Breakfast will be wearing orange, and invite you as a board to join us in that, and the community to take part in this worthwhile event.
Individual, you'd have 3 minutes, or representing a group, 5 minutes. And I don't see anybody scurrying towards the front, so we will move on to our communication section of the meeting and the superintendent staff school report.
Okay, at this time I'll invite Principal Brian Valek from Kennedy Junior High School to come to the presentation table. Principal Valek is the first principal of this year to share with the Board of Education an update on the school improvement initiatives and efforts at Kennedy Junior High School. So he'll walk you through an overview of their Rising Star plan and the work that they're doing as a school towards school improvement. Brian.
Thank you very much for having me.
Do you see 2 blue lights?
Blue lights? How's that?
Perfect.
All right, thank you very much. A little closer. How's that? All right, great. I appreciate you having me here tonight. I'd like to briefly kind of walk through our school improvement process. It may look similar. I know in the past year you've heard from some of our elementary schools. When I can, I'll try to maybe distinguish what it looks like differently at a middle school than an elementary school. Certainly I'm not trying to speak for all middle schools. I might give you a sense of some of the difference. Next slide. Up here I have my Rising Star team at Kennedy. About 14 months ago, when we began the Rising Star process in District 203, we didn't know where it was going to quite lead us at Kennedy. So at that time, I decided to select members who might have a broad reach in our building. So in addition to the 3 administrators, we have our school psychologist, we have our learning support coach, also some interventionists, and then our coordinator for special education, just so we have a broad reach. Later this year, as we get into the spring, we're going to conduct a process that will cycle several of these members off our Rising Star team and bring in some classroom teachers. And I would anticipate every 2 years or so, we'll conduct a cycle like that where we'll bring in new members and kind of release some other members. Next slide. Also, as I go through in instances, I'm going to try to show connections to our strategic blueprints. Many things we do in the school improvement process obviously align with what we've been talking about here as a district here as well. Right now, in our Rising Star School Improvement process, we are in that fourth step of the phase here. We are actually monitoring our plan. Going back to last year when we first received the charge of being a Rising Star school, getting ourselves together, going through and assessing indicators, going through the SMART Start, then going through the SMART Plan, coming up with our plan, and now we're in that process of monitoring the plan. So as I take you through our 3 indicators, we're at various stages of implementation in my building. Next slide. At this point, we have landed on 3 different indicators. I'm going to talk about each of these 3 separately, but as we looked at these, came across this process by no particular plan, but it appeared to us upon reflection, looking back, we have a building goal, we have maybe a teacher team goal, and then it kind of narrows down to an individual teacher level. Each of these different levels we feel is going to impact student learning. So perhaps using the language we have from Rising Star, it doesn't specify students in their language, but over and over again, we're going to connect to our practices with students in our building. Next slide. Our first indicator was having our school's leadership team regularly look at school performance data and aggregated classroom observation data and use that data to make decisions about school improvement and professional development needs. I think historically we've always looked at our school performance data, but we've never quite tied that to what we see going on in our classrooms based on some classroom observations. As we began to do some research this past year, we read a book called Instructional Rounds, looking at that school improvement process through walkthroughs and different things like that. And we landed on a process that we felt was really going to become teacher-owned, so it wouldn't be a top-down decision based on me as the principal or as the administrative team saying we should do this, but rather coming across this process. Our next slide will illustrate we've landed on a process through research called Flip Peer Observations, and we're going to begin kicking these off here in 2 days working with our department coordinators. Essentially what this is a process by which teachers themselves decide about what elements of their instruction they want to see improve. They rely on their peers to give them feedback on that process and what their instruction is, and then take some data from that. So our process, of course, would include a segment there where a teacher decides on what that focus question they want to investigate is, bringing in some peers to do some observe, and then some debriefing by sharing some information based on what they saw take place in the classroom, counting of numbers, tracking of information taking place. And we think this is going to help overlap with our other indicators as well. Our second indicator we looked at is having instructional teams review student learning data, academic, physical, social, emotional, behavioral, or any of those types of data to assess and make decisions about curriculum and instructional strategies. You've probably heard the term PLC being used quite a bit in our district over the last couple of years. Our big movement over the last 12 months is a restructuring of our building schedule to allow for these PLCs to exist and have weekly meetings and also have this information go back and forth. As I've tried to illustrate in the graphic there, ultimately student data is our main purpose of the professional learning community, so that data will inform the instructional decision making. We spent some time doing some clinical understanding about PLCs, and now we're really digging deeply into it. Our next slide will indicate what that might look like. I've just illustrated here what our 7th grade schedule appears for this year. You'll notice that second period, all of my 7th grade teachers are off that period. That gives them a chance to collaborate with people in their same discipline, as well as collaborate with teachers within their same grade level team, but also find some other opportunities to collaborate with parents and other professionals as well, influencing student learning there. My next slide gets to our third indicator, where all teachers will differentiate assignments or individualized instruction in response to individual student performance on pre-test and other methods of assessment, kind of mapping out some different tasks there along the way. We are in the process right now of really digging in and learning what differentiation is and what are the different forms it might take. The follow-up slide here reveals just some brainstorm that took place last spring. And I apologize for maybe the handwriting there, but I want to kind of give you a sense of some staff sitting around discussing about what will take place and what we're learning about differentiation. That certainly is not an exhaustive list up there, but rather what they came up through that discussion at the time. And I know it's kind of hard to read, but in the center there you can see in red we see teacher versus student perspective or experience. So how does differentiation impact the teacher experience about how they're delivering instruction, but also what's the experience on students when they're in these classrooms where differentiation is the norm to meet their learning needs there. Our next slide, I'm just trying to illustrate maybe how these three indicators align to our professional practice, but also to our strategic blueprint there. As we implement our system of aggregate observation data by using these flipped peer observations, we're hoping it's going to provide teachers with feedback on instructional practices identified through this process of reflection and collaboration with their peers. We're also hoping that it will implement that new model of job-embedded professional learning to improve teacher efficacy and student learning, one of our indicators there of our blueprint. Our instructional team collaboration will help us implement the rigorous curriculum aligned to the Common Core state standards. Last year, of course, we saw our new math curriculum being implemented. This year, we're seeing our new English language arts curriculum being implemented. And our instructional teams, or PLCs, is a great opportunity for us to kind of make certain that is being implemented with integrity and fidelity. Also helping us implement a balanced assessment system to prepare students and staff for success with those next generations of assessments, which are taking place this spring. Our efforts in differentiation, we're hoping that formative assessment informs teacher decision-making for student learning needs. And also a key component of this we've been talking about for the last year is culturally responsive practices should be evident in our teaching and our school practices to ensure equity in teaching. We have talked about the concept as a kind of a big concept, what that might look like, and spending some time last year looking at some decisions actually that I made administratively and how looking at it through a different lens perhaps did not meet the needs of all of our population. So now we've kind of used that, applying a lot of our readings from Terrell and Lindsay and talking about that culturally proficient continuum, and sometimes how do we maybe restructure our thinking to be better responsive to our students and their learning needs there. Our next slide here, I'm trying to illustrate here the variety of different ways we are influencing teacher practices and instruction. There's a variety of different sources that come through. Ultimately, once again, student learning and growth is at the center of what we do, but there's a variety of different connections that our teachers are exposed to, going from their PLCs on the left side there up through the spectrum all the way to the right. I mentioned my principal's council is a trimester meeting I have with each of the different grade levels. I meet with students and ask them for feedback about what's taking place in their classes. Sometimes it's as simple as asking questions about what are some things that teachers do that really help your learning, what are some things you wish teachers knew about learning that would make it better for you in the classroom. But all these things, once again, are filtered back to the teachers, so we take feedback from a variety of different places there. You can see some of those are formal structures. In some instances, like our school family community partnership, we're trying to leverage that communication between the school and our parents and find out those opportunities there that we can help each other improve student learning in our building as we go forward here. Finally, I just kind of like to illustrate here where I think our processes all align here. Obviously, our district mission is the center of what we do and where our objectives are here. Following through that, we have our strategic blueprints, those first two strategic foci, I'm sorry, it's been a long day here. But once again, trying to align where our three Rising Star indicators will go. Certainly, as you're aware, the Rising Star process is a fluid process. So I envision over time we'll see as we complete some of the tasks for some of our indicators that will give us back into that process and reassessing where we are and then landing on some new indicators there. But I do feel overall that the Rising Star process has been great for Kennedy and great for school improvement, and I really feel it's going to help us continue to meet the changing needs of our students who are coming through the doors.
Awesome.
All right.
Question. We can take
Sure.
some questions. Comments or
Absolutely.
questions?
Thank you so much for your presentation. Can you speak to your principal's council a little bit more? That was really very intriguing and just
Sure.
the detail about that.
It's actually pretty informal, but every trimester, what I've done it in two different ways of either asking the counselors to submit some names of some students who might be very outgoing and willing to talk, or other instances I've just kind of thrown out an open invitation and invite kids to join me for lunch. I start out with a couple questions I want to ask and just to find out how things are going, and from there, see where the conversation goes. Many instances, kids will get really excited about what they're learning about in school, but often it's kind of great opportunities for me to see, this is what I think we've been focusing on as a staff and seeing what kids will maybe pull out of that. So 2 or 3 years ago, we spent a lot of time kind of revisiting use it target writing in the classroom, and then asking some of the questions like, how do you see targets being used in the class? How is it helpful to you as a student, or what are some things that teachers do associated with that? So ultimately, when I get a chance to talk to all 3 grades, I'll report back to my leadership team, my department coordinators, and share out with the staff. And what I try to do is feverishly take notes, write down things verbatim as I can, because sometimes it comes best in their words rather than me trying to interpret for the students.
Love that you do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Kristen?
Thanks for coming to see us. It was great to see the examples of how you're using data in all of the areas of your school improvement plan, using the data to try to do the professional learning so that it really all circles back to that plan. I am so glad that you're here. In looking at Kennedy's school improvement plan last year, I had highlighted something that I thought really stuck out that I thought was interesting, and so it's exciting to have the opportunity to talk to you about it in person. One of your tasks under your indicators under differentiation talks about how you collect and analyze evidence on implementation and effectiveness of differentiated instruction. And I thought that was very interesting that you were tabulating it and saying, okay, how did it work? How's it working? I know you're in that process where you're reflecting on your data. What are you seeing?
We're still in that process, and I think what it is, it's in many instances when you have a discipline who is focused on a certain content area, having that discussion about what's working best for them. So sometimes as it kicks back to me as a principal, I recognize they may be talking about how technology helps them get to this problem, or sometimes they're not even considering how technology helps them get to that. It may be some other instances where it's talking about, are they front-loading things at the front of a lesson, or is it at the end of a lesson as kind of a formative assessment piece right there. So we have not created a master list because I think ultimately as we learn about differentiated instruction and these different skills you can use, it's like having that toolbox, and with certain students at certain times, certain skills or strategies are going to work. In other instances, we can't keep rolling out the same thing over and over again. I think right now one of our biggest challenges is the changes in the ELA curriculum. It's really kind of stretching some of our language arts teachers. It's different than perhaps they learned the curriculum, growing up and going through schooling, and maybe it's not what's natural to them as a teacher. So as they're learning it, they're going through it for the first time. The content, obviously, they know, but now the different approach about how to structure the classroom, reformatting what that period might look like. So that's where we're kind of breaking it off in smaller bits. So that part where we're talking about, maybe a mini lesson for grammar, what are some effective things you're doing to maybe hook the kids at the beginning and doing some present things like that. We have a lot of discussion going back and forth. I have an outstanding learning support coach who has been there on par with the staff as they learn this new curriculum, and she's helped us really kind of pull out some of those consistent standards we see going across the instruction there.
It looks also as if you highlighted this. You have a lot of opportunities for the reflection and the collaboration, with peers.
Correct. Yeah, it's at the bare minimum. It should be happening once a week. I find what's happening more that it's happening now beyond those structured times. When we began and restructured, certainly people were willing to try it, but it seemed a little foreign to be told, okay, we want you to sit down and talk about your teaching practices. But I see now many times there's more and more conversations in places beyond that instance, where they're finding multiple opportunities in the week. And then the exciting thing I often find is I find language arts teachers talking to science teachers about this is what's really working for us, and sharing ideas across curriculum.
So when you see an area where the students are really performing, you're able to share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? Very exciting. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Brian, I have a question, a little off topic. Aren't you a D203 alum?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, 1988, which I think was the favorite class of District 203.
Okay, just sharing. Okay. And you've been a principal at Kennedy how long?
This is my fifth school year.
Okay, awesome. Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you.
We really
Great report.
great.
Thank you,
great
Brian.
presentation.
Next report, information provided just for your information to the Board of Education, first day enrollment counts. I apologize, I neglected to inform you. I did, the report I gave you is there, but we also updated it today, based on today's numbers, the first day after Labor Day. So if you open board docs, you can see an additional form has been added in there, which will show you the enrollment as it stood at about 10 o'clock this morning when Maureen had sent that to me. Very near projections, a little bit below the projections. Again, very early in the school year. It's really kind of hard to put your thumb on the enrollment. It's going to change daily. Today's the 10th day of enrollment, so there will be some kids that we may not have heard from yet that may be dropped out tomorrow as a result of not being in school yet today. So this is early looks. I've had a preliminary look at some of our class size averages. I don't have a formal report on that right now. Overall averages are well within established parameters, and actually district-wide look pretty good. We do have a couple of enrollment assistants in a couple of classes at some of our schools based on enrollment. All of our enrollments in classes are within district policy and are the district parameters. So this is where we stand as of today. Again, that number will be very fluid. I'll try to provide a monthly report to you on how that population changes. And then also we expect late this fall, early winter, the completion of the demographic study that's being conducted by Dr. Coffrin, and we'll be able to then present that to the Board of Education.
The community preschoolers are in Ann Reed. Look like they're in there now.
Yes, they did. I think today was the first day for the community preschool kids.
Right.
Today? Yep. They're not included in these numbers, so that
Oh,
number
wow.
will go
Okay,
up then.
wow.
Okay.
Tara worked hard at that. So.
So, take any questions.
I have a question. So, okay, so to the Ann Reed enrollment, so the going from 249 on the 29th to 382 on the 2nd is not the community preschool, you said?
They're not in there. They're not in that number.
So can you
Are
just?
they in there, Maureen? They are in there.
Oh. Okay.
So that big jump is the community, okay.
Yeah, you look at the growth, and as you, Ms. Allen has indicated, I would expect that number to increase still. You compare it to last year's, and I think that's why Ms. Ryan said that, because it's not where we expect the number to be higher this year, and it will as they enroll.
I think actually I was meeting with them last week. That's one of my adopted schools, and it was fascinating. They sound like they get in new students each week as they identify throughout the
needs.
the kids.
Exactly.
Christine's nodding her head, right? That falls within
So
her
that
realm.
I think that's why you see the big difference between the beginning and the end. If you look at 2014, and then I would expect.
It's also important to note that district-wide, centralized enrollment is not shut down right now. It continues to work, and I know Maureen was here waiting for a family this evening as of 6 o'clock this evening. So, we will enroll them as they show up, for sure. So,
Any other comments or questions? Well, we will look forward to maybe an update. The next update will be with the demographic study, or if there's any, obviously, big changes. Next report?
okay, at this time I'll invite Assistant Superintendent for Assessment Analytics, Tim Warenga, to come forward to the presentation table for our annual report to the Board of Education on our high school students' performance on the ACT. So, Tim.
Thank you for letting me come and present this data. The ACT is a college entrance exam. We started gathering data in 8th grade to help students prepare for the ACT. Our schools analyze the data for trends and needs as part of the school improvement process and to help individual students prepare for post-secondary success. Each year in mid-August, districts across the nation receive a graduating class report from ACT. This, in many respects, is a summative report for the graduating class of 2014. The outcomes for this presentation are to present an analysis of the data for the class of 2014. We will look at the composite score over time, present the college readiness benchmark scores for the most recent class, and present an analysis of the ACT series tests in cohort form. We use this data report as a springboard to begin conversations with benchmark districts about their scores, their successes, and lessons to be learned from each other. This presentation, though, is designed to announce the overall composite and college readiness scores provided to us by ACT. We can celebrate our student achievement in District 203. Our ACT composite exceeded state and national averages and increased from 24.8 to 25.1 this year. Our balanced assessment system includes annual accountability scores, district assessments that are given regularly over the course of the year to students, and classroom assessments. This report reflects the work in Blueprint 2.18.c, which is to implement a balanced assessment system to prepare staff and students for success with the next generation of assessments. Scores now include students who were granted extended time on the ACT. Prior to last year, only students who had standard time scores were included in this report. Because of this, the 2013 and 2014 composite that is reported by ACT is not easily comparable to previous year's data since the parameters for reporting have changed. But we do believe that this is a more accurate picture of our student body since it includes all of our college-eligible students. ACT grants or denies student eligibility to have extended time on the ACT due to an application process. The approval process for extended time does not reside with the school or district, but we do put in place the logistics to provide the necessary accommodations when ACT grants extended time. The graduating class of 2014 was the last class to take the Prairie State examination, which included the ACT as the first day of testing for our juniors. Starting this spring, our state assessment will be the Partnership for Assessment of College and Careers, or PARC, which assesses progress on the new Illinois learning standards. The state has decided to continue to offer the ACT to juniors since it also measures readiness for college and careers. Our juniors will be taking the ACT on March 3rd. We have prepared our students for the ACT for many years by giving assessments written by ACT that align in form and content with the ACT. We give the Explore test to our 8th graders and the Plan test to our 9th graders. Years ago, we also purchased a retired ACT to give to our sophomores, and we called it the Practice ACT to prepare them for the ACT. Over the past 3 years, our department has purchased retired Explore and Plan tests also. So when ACT announced last fall that they would no longer provide the Explore and Plan tests, we were ready with our own to continue to support our students as they prepare for college entrance testing. We can now assess and scan students on the retired tests with Mastery Manager, our district's testing and scanning solution. ACT sets benchmark cut scores for each subject in order to create a common focus for schools across the nation, establish high expectations for students and schools, promote a rigorous curriculum, inform college counseling, and measure and evaluate progress of students and schools. The benchmark score that, according to ACT's research, reflects a 50% chance of a student scoring a B or greater, or a 75% chance of a student scoring a C or greater in a college entry class in the respective content area. ACT reports these schools as benchmarks for being ready for college and careers. What these really tell us is the probability of success in a freshman course in these disciplines. Almost all students take college English as freshmen. Not as many freshmen take college biology. So students have more choices when they meet each of these benchmarks. To be ready for college and careers involves more than our test scores. Our staff, curriculum, activities, and athletics provide opportunities that promote behaviors that will help students be successful beyond the test scores. But our students demonstrate an academic readiness to attend college or begin a career through these scores. The data illustrates how consistent our two high schools are compared to each other at preparing students for college. The highlight is that 86% of our graduating class in 2014 met the college English benchmark. 54% of our students also met all 4 of the benchmarks, meaning that they will have the flexibility in choosing the field at which they can study in college. This is over twice the state percentage. While these schools are very good compared to the state average, we are continuing to strive to improve these scores so our students have more opportunities available to them. This slide shows a picture of the district composite for the last 5 years. The graduating class ACT report shares the most recent ACT score for each student. The graduating class of 2010 had a composite of 25. The graduating class of 2011 had a composite of 25.4. The graduating class of 2012 had a composite of 25.3. In 2013, ACT started including extended time students in the district average, and the composite was a 24.8. The graduating class of 2014 improved that by 0.3 for a composite of 25.1. The districts in this area, are interested in looking at the standard time scores, since this is the way that ACT has reported this in the past prior to 2013. So if we are to compare only the standard time scores over the past 5 years, which would be a true apples-to-apples type of comparison with the data prior to 2013, our 2014 composite would be a 25.8 as represented by the dashed line up there, which is the highest standard time composite in the history of the district.
Right.
This graph shows how this cohort of students have done over time on our ACT prep series of tests. As I outlined previously, we presently give the Explore, Plan, and Practice ACT in preparation for the ACT. We started giving the Explore in 8th grade with the class of 2015, so that is why the data does not show up on this graph. The data shown here is for the classes of 2010 through the class of 2014. The plan is given in the spring of freshman year, and the practice ACT is given in the spring of sophomore year. All juniors take the all sophomores take the practice ACT in the spring. All juniors take the ACT during the school day in their junior year, and many of them will take it again on a Saturday national ACT date. The grad report that we are sharing with you gives the most recent ACT score from any student that has taken it multiple times. The expected growth from the plan to the ACT, as reported by ACT, is a range of scores, typically with the high end of the range being about 5 points. As you can see from this graph, our students consistently outpace the expected growth from the plan to the ACT. This graph shows that this cohort of students have achieved higher average composites on every test than previous cohorts, but their pattern of growth is very similar to the other cohorts. I will now take your questions.
On the ACT provided to juniors on the 3rd of March, is that going to include the written portion?
It will. Last year and this year, the state started again providing that as part of what they paid for from ACT.
So 12 they did not. Right.
Correct.
Right.
For
Was
a
that the
couple-
only year they did not?
I think there was 2
11?
years that
2
they did
years,
it,
11
yes.
and 12. So last year they had the written portion, and this year they've got the written portion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do want to say, going back, I mean, I appreciate that ACT is now including the students who have the extended time. And those tend to, just clarify, tend to be kids who have 504 plans and are special needs, so 504, and IEP students?
Yes, usually defined by their IEP or 504, and then ACT reviews that and decides whether it's applicable for their test.
Right. And they have to have a 504 plan or an IEP 2 years prior to the test date, don't they? Is that generally? But it is the ACT's rule. It's not our decision.
It is ACT's rule, and that's typical, that it's been in place for a couple years, but not always the case.
Well, you don't want last minute.
Correct. That's
Last minute
Gaming the
challenges, right.
system,
Yeah, and
right?
our-
Somebody to go to 504.
Can happen, right.
and our schools are very good at monitoring what the student needs are, not just about the testing process.
Right, right.
So I will say, I mean, I appreciate that the ACT is including that, that we do want to see an apples to apples, because it looks sort of dramatic to go from 25 to 24, but those are still our kids, and they're still taking the test, so I think it's fair to say this is what our score is, because we're including everybody in there, and they're still our kids, right? And we're still teaching them, and
Yeah. Our score is 25.1, and as we get to the point now where we'll have at least 3 points of data in the future,
Right.
usually you can start then tracking trends then once you have more data points.
Right.
So that's a great point.
Susan?
Tim, what will it look like, the practice tests before will you keep doing the same thing? Will you do something different with the park exams? Will they be retired park tests? I mean,
Park is unique in that they have set as part of their business plan that every year they will retire their test and make it available for students to practice on. So it's going to be a unique test every year, and every year the students will be able to practice on previous tests. Kind of like what you see sometimes with the AP test. AP tests do that with their extended questions, not necessarily with their multiple choice parts, but this will be available for students to see.
so the students that have taken the plan and the retired and maybe a couple ACTs have had a couple go-rounds of what it looks like, and you know, there's lots of study guides, there's lots of programs, there's lots of things like that. Do they get some kind of practice with the park? This is the way the test is going to look?
Yes, Park has put out a series of practice tests that when we were getting ready for the field test this past year, we had all of the students who were preparing for that take a practice test as part of that process. And then other schools in our district also decided that they wanted to get that process started. So as an example, we had most of our junior high students this past year take a practice park test last spring. Same thing through this process this year as we work with our staff and training them about the park test. We're also making available the links to the practice tests that the kids can take.
I just want to make sure we're clear about something, and I don't think you're going there, but for those that may be watching at home, ACT is not a part of the park. They are separate. I just want to make that clear to those that are watching. I know you're not there, but that's an important distinction to make. Whereas in previous years, the PSA and ACT were given simultaneously, the ACT a part of that. These are separate.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So you discussed about how the ACT discontinued the Explore and Plan, but then you said that we've already purchased. I'm sorry, I missed. Sorry. So we're still going to be using those?
Yes.
The ones that we've purchased?
Yeah, we purchased retired plan and Explore tests in anticipation if we wanted to give them different times of the year, and it was just fortuitous that when ACT made the announcement last year that they were discontinuing those two, we already had them purchased, and we have a scanning package that we can do our own printing of the scan sheets and scanning those.
So then the cohort data that you have here, it looks like, you know, as we look at this, the plan and the practice ACT are really good indicators of where the ACT is going to be. So we're still going to, I heard you say plan, we haven't talked about we're still going to do the practice ACTs as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So even though what they've changed, we're still on the same.
Yeah, we've been working, and again, every year we reevaluate as part of our balanced assessment system what's best for our students in college and career readiness. And this year we've worked with the high schools. They'll be giving, the junior highs will be giving the 8th grade Explore, and our high schools will be giving the plan and the practice ACT.
Tim, could you just reiterate for the people at home, the ACT this year will have writing in it. It'll be the full ACT. It will be given in the school day, but it will not be given, what is the timing of that versus the park? In the same week? Not the same week?
Great question. The state has moved the time. Typically, we have given the ACT as part of the Prairie State in April. They've moved it up to March 3rd because the testing season in the spring will include what's called the performance-based assessment section of the park, which will be in March, and then there will be we'll go into May, and late April, May, the students will take the end of year portion of the park assessments. Our high school students then, because we'll give them the park in April, the AP tests then start up in May. So it's the testing season. They decided to move it out and make it earlier in the year.
Spread it out a little bit more. And where will the ACT fit in that?
It'll be in March 3rd. So
March 3rd.
at
Oh, it is March 3rd. Okay.
Very beginning of the
Very
process. It'll kick off the
Way
testing
beginning.
season.
Oh, it will kick off. Okay, I missed that part. Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okey-doke. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, the next report is just an update to the Board of Education regarding the discussions that we have had with a vendor regarding the installation of cellular towers at 2 of our school sites. On August 12th, Brad Kaufman and I met with representatives of AT&T and National Wireless, the installer, to review the terms of the proposed installations at both Kennedy and Lincoln. During that meeting and the conversation we had, a representative from AT&T indicated that at this point in time, they'll plan to move forward with other projects and that they would be turning the District 203 project over to a third-party vendor. So at the conclusion and through the conversation of that meeting, we agreed that the proposal as initially presented was no longer on the table for consideration. Earlier today, the representative from National Wireless indicated that the third-party vendor was not interested at this time in continuing to pursue work with District 203 at the sites that had previously been identified. Therefore, there is no longer any proposal before the board for your consideration at this time. Should a new party or a new proposal come before us at these two sites or any other sites, we'll continue to evaluate what's brought forward to us, update you accordingly at meetings, at the public meetings, so that we're aware of that, and then bring it forward for your consideration if we're requested to do so by the Board of Education. So in summary, at this time, there is no proposal any longer available for the board to act on or to consider.
Dan, may I ask you to, when we do our, the notes that are on the website, make sure, this is something that's a number of people in the community were
Sure, I can
really
just
concerned.
release my notes here. That I have.
Right, if we
Absolutely.
can just get that on the website, and maybe the principals of those buildings that might not at least have this information, because the community was coming to meetings during the summer. We promised them that we really weren't going to have a discussion in earnest if there was a proposal still on the table till everyone got back in school. So just if those principals can have this information, and then also on the website for people, because they're looking at our agenda, so they're going to the website, so they'll see it there. So that would be, I really appreciate that. Any other comments on? Okey-doke. Next item.
Okay, and the next item is also a point of information for you. You had heard some information about this earlier. This comes from the Robert Crown Center in DuPage County. Bob Ross and Jane Willard are our points on this. Anti-drug and drug education is part of our health curriculum as is. We've been asked to participate in a pilot program that is currently being funded by the DuPage County Board. Background information and materials provided for you in board docs. Unless we hear from the Board of Education you'd like more information or more discussion on this, our intent is to move forward with that. It is just an evaluation of the particular program that they're providing for us. It does align with our curriculum and the work that we currently do. There is no charge or no fee to us at this time. We would evaluate the effectiveness and the alignment during the course of this year to determine if we wanted to move forward in future years. Bob and Jane, I don't know if there's anything additional that you want to throw in here.
And thank you, the fees for those. At least everybody understands the magnitude, so thank you for that.
The one thing we were going to add is that there are parent components to this presentation from the Robert Crown. They offer anything that the student would see within the classroom would be available to a parent online. So they could have that access. Also, we are working with them currently to see what type of parent presentation, if we would need that, and what we would do for different levels.
And any objection that we have would simply follow the procedure that the policy that we currently have in place.
If you don't want to participate. Right. Awesome. Thank you. Any comments, questions? Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, I see where they're providing the curriculum and our teachers are going to be teaching it though. And at this point, they've all reviewed it and you've reviewed it and there's nothing off the wall or anything. I understand this is an evaluation, but we've already done the first step and there are no surprises or anything?
No, as we look at it and how it aligns with our curriculum, it's aligning at this point. We will pull a team of teachers from Washington and also from Naperville North to work on how it exactly aligns and where the most appropriate alignment is and what type of materials we will implement from the resources, because there is a lot of resources within this, and we will evaluate that prior to any implementation.
Okay, thank you.
So as we're evaluating the curriculum, are we going to seek input from the students too, so we can see if there was an impact, like, from before to after?
That's something we'll work with Robert Crown and the parameters of their pilot, and then what we want to do, do we decide as a district to make the recommendation that we would survey students, and also would we survey parents as well? So that's something that we would work in that committee.
Any other comments or questions? Kristen?
Thanks for letting us know about the parent part. I know the parents is such an important piece for drug education, so thanks for letting us know about that. I'll be interested to hear how that goes.
Okay, thank you very much. I do not have a report this evening. Any other Board of Education reports this evening? Okey doke. We have we're on to our consent agenda, so I will entertain a motion for our consent agenda, please.
Sure. I move to approve our consent agenda, items 7.01 and 7.02.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for our consent agenda. Ms. Bell, please.
Romberg,
Yes.
Yench,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Crotty,
Yes.
Wanky,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Fielden,
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries. And we have two items on our agenda this evening. 8.01 is the RevTrak fee increase. These are without action. They're just being brought to us brought to us for the first time this evening. So I will turn it over to our superintendent.
Right, and the first item is most of the information for this presentation is included in board docs in the reports that you have. Last year, there was a recommendation made to the board to use RevTrak, a credit card system that would allow parents to the option to select to pay online. An analysis of the impact of that has led us back to you with a recommendation to change our convenience fee from the flat rate to the fixed percent. Brad Kaufman, our Chief School Business Official, and Kane Osborne, Deputy Superintendent, led this initiative. If there's anything that you want to speak to beyond what's been prepared for the board.
Nothing more than is in the memo.
If I can either ask Brad or Kane just to speak about the fee. The fee was originally decided upon, and then I think that we have very, very bright students in our district, and they have bright parents, and there were they were bundling a number of. I guess how did we get to the increase? Is a better way to.
I think part of it was in speaking with the vendor originally, we talked about the uses we anticipated for it, and we set a fee that we thought would be a cost-neutral fee
right.
and fair, and related to what other districts had done and would achieve what we wanted. When we then hooked it up to registration for summer school, for instance, the ticket sizes plus what other things they were buying made those ticket sizes bigger than we anticipated in relationship to the fee, and that's how we got the higher cost than we anticipated.
Okay, fair enough. And like everything, this is why you have to do something, look at it, and be patient. Can't react to it right away. Be patient, and I appreciate your bringing that to us. Susan.
Brad, I have a question for you. Does the opportunity to pay on credit card change our collectibles that we have, like checks that bounce, things like that, and make it, easier to collect the funds that we get?
Well, we really, I would say at this point, I don't think we have quite enough data on that. I mean, inherently, I think the answer is yes. I think there could be, potentially for some parents, I might say, okay, fine, I'll use my credit card and then pay it off at my own leisure. But we do have quite a few accommodations already in the system. So if a person is, difficult paying, we work with them and things like that. And as far as, like an NSF collection, we have a system in place that's very effective on collecting that. And so we really recover, almost 100% of that now. So I don't think we, have much of an offset. So that's why we're really coming back saying, yes, there are some districts that have taken the perspective of, well, we're going to eat or, absorb the credit card fee because it's helping with our collectibles and whatever. Well, that's not quite the case here.
Okay.
So,
Good question. Any other did you have a question, Kristen?
So if I understand it correctly, we're going to go to a flat percent for each expenditure that you would have. You'd have your fee and you'd pay 3.6 across the board, no matter what.
Correct.
How is that compared to other districts in terms of what kinds of percentages they see, or other vendors in terms of what types of things we would do with other vendors?
well, I'm not sure on other vendors, you see it, like the driver's license, they have a fee if you want to use your credit card. I don't remember what that is, but I did pull, our benchmark districts. Basically, other than Indian Prairie, none of our other districts actually charge fee. So, Batavia, St. Charles, Barrington, Geneva, they don't have a credit card convenience fee. Indian Prairie does. They charge a flat 4.75%, which is corresponding to what their vendor charges. I will say the credit card network agreement, the master agreement, if you will, you cannot charge more than your end user charge. So, 3.6 is the maximum that we would be able to charge. For whatever the reason, Indian Prairie must have a higher rate. So,
In our initial look, we did find that the fees that were varied widely, from no fee to different flat fees to different percentage fees, and there wasn't necessarily a rhyme or reason that we could ascertain in looking as to what it was. And we arrived at the original number as kind of what we thought would be a sweet spot at the time, but because we do want to roll it out and make it the option available to everybody, we can only do so if it's cost neutral. And so that's why we're coming now to do that, because we've only done a small portion of what's possible.
However, to reiterate, we always can pay by check, and there's
Absolutely, yeah, that's included in the memo. And
Has anybody ever complained about the usage fee? Have you heard anything? No, okay.
no.
Okay, it's kind of like shipping to me, I don't want to pay shipping,
Right.
so that's my own little thing, so.
meant to be very
Get
transparent.
over yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Can I
Any
ask-
other comment? Oh, excuse
So
me, sorry.
is there an option, can we only pay by credit card? I didn't use it because I hate paying fees for electronic transfers. But can you pay by bank account, or does it have to be credit card?
You can pay by paper check, not electronic. There's not an electronic check fee, electronic
There's
check portion put in there, but you can write a check still, of course, or pay
Okay,
cash.
but you can withdraw it directly from your bank account. It has to go,
Correct.
it has to be a credit card. So that explains some of the fee, because there's a fee paid to the credit card as well. I mean, the credit card charges us.
Correct.
Because it always just seems, especially if you're paying from your bank account, why am I paying a fee for you to take money from my bank account is ridiculous. But if it's a credit card. Right. So I get, okay, that explains that. All right.
So, Brad, I think I heard you say that there's a number of, other than Indian Prairie, the other districts don't charge a fee at all.
No, the only other, St. Charles had a fee being charged by a different vendor, My School Bucks. So on the Rev Track, they had no fee, but on My School Bucks, which is for their lunch convenience, there is a $2.50 flat transaction fee.
So they're using RevTrack as well, but not charging a fee?
Right,
So the district is incurring that cost then?
that is correct.
Because they have the same vendor and the same
Right.
fee? Okay, thank you.
Okey-doke. Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Okay, and our next topic is our Chief Financial Officer, Brad Kaufman, will report to the Board of Education our recommendation for implementation of medical, prescription, vision, and dental rates for the upcoming plan year. Brad?
Thank you. Loaded in your board documents is a memo outlining them. I will report while we've not finished the year, our current medical plan year is looking very good. We plan to projecting to end the year with a surplus. So with all the changes that we implemented to allow for the Affordable Care Act, our consultant has reviewed along with the committee, and we have determined that at this point we see no need for an increase. And so we're proposing that what we're calling the Platinum Plan, that's our current plan.
Right.
So we would hold those rates flat, and then the other two plans are just simply, they are determined actuarially based on what they think the population will be. Those have been set as a calculated rates, and so we would propose that we would approve these rates at our next meeting. And from our estimation, this will provide adequate resources to fund our self-funded medical RX, dental, and vision for the next year. And I will say we will be switching to a calendar year, so these rates are actually January 1st through December 15th, but we're planning on freezing the rates for this short year. We will go through a short year, which will just be October, November, December, so just 3 months.
Comments or questions? Oh, sorry, comments or questions?
So on the attachment that you gave us, there's on page 2, you have the gross funding and the projected costs. Did you say that we were going to run a surplus?
No, that's projected for the upcoming year. The current year that we're in, we're projecting a surplus at this moment.
Okay.
This is actually projecting a small deficit, but, you know, they're always a little conservative with their numbers.
Okay.
We feel comfortable that even though it's a small deficit,
All right.
we'll just fine.
I heard surplus and I read this and I was just.
Right, in the
I didn't-
current year.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen?
This is a question with regard to the packet that you provided that has the information about the plans. The only thing that was a clarification for when you actually look at the benefits and you're looking at the deductibles and the coinsurance, it says current medical RX benefits platinum PPO, and on the other they say proposed.
Mm-hmm.
Is there no change to the other?
When you say the, you
so
mean?
you have the outline of the platinum plan.
Right.
And then you go down and you have the gold and the silver, and you say proposed. So
Right.
did you make no changes then to the platinum plan?
Right, we made
Okay.
no benefit changes other than the changes that the board approved as part of the ACA, which was to add the spousal surcharge, off the top of my head, that was the major one, the spousal surcharge. And these here say proposed just because we haven't hit January 1st. I mean, really, the board already approved these plans.
Right. So there's no change to that's not covered. The spousal part isn't covered. These are just looking at the co-pays and all that. So all that would stay the same in the platinum, and then you just are outlining the new proposal for the
Right,
other two
we're
plans.
just
Got it.
listing you there for your reference. The two new plans are approved during the ACA implementation.
Okay. Michael?
If I could just clarify that, and I think I understand what's going on, but for the audience also. The point is, the Platinum Plan is what we have in place now, but it's our only option, so we didn't have any fancy name for it.
Right.
So
Right.
that's why
Right,
it's
right, right.
not a proposed
New
plan.
improved, yeah.
It's basically, we're rolling it over, and since it is a great plan, we're calling it the Platinum Plan with two other options, which are proposed because they're brand new.
Right.
And also because you're maintaining the insurance premium is exactly the same. There's no difference for this 6 months, and if it turns out, if this is approved, there will be no difference for the next year either.
That is
So
correct.
someone who went from our standard plan, our only plan last year, rolls into the Platinum Plan, will see absolutely no increase in premiums. And if they choose the gold or the bronze or lead plan, whatever it is, they will potentially have savings in premiums, but they have to offset that with the software and the cost. So my follow-up, you're nodding, so all that was correct. Now, the follow-up question is, how are we, or how is the vendor situated as far as bringing their software online so people can start looking at cost comparisons and stuff for the different tier plans?
Right. Actually, with the new hirees for this fall, we actually rolled out the online software to go through to kind of get out the glitches, which it was a good thing. We've had a few glitches, but that's been allowed them to be able to go online and to look at the different plans. And interesting enough, we've kind of heard from we've actually had some current active employees who had tried to go on and register to see the plans for themselves. It was like, well, hold it. Can't go on yet. You have to wait for open enrollment, which we're still developing all the communication for. But so far, so good.
That was my next question. When is the enrollment window going to be, since it starts January 1st?
Right. I believe, and off the top of my head, I think it's October 15th to November 15th.
Okay,
I think that's accurate.
that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Kristen?
Sorry, this is just a follow-up to the discussion. So it does make it very clear, because obviously the biggest change is the deductible. I mean, the biggest variance between the different plans is the deductible. There are percentage in terms of coinsurance, but the deductible is the biggest variable, and it makes it very clear in the sign-up about the contribution as well, correct?
Right. When they go online, when they select a plan, it will show them exactly how much per month, per paycheck, their deduction will be.
But if they choose the high deductible plan, it will also discuss the district contribution.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is our only item for discussion with action this evening. And I will let our superintendent speak to its content.
I think we'll take a motion first.
Oh, okay.
Proposal, and then I'll speak to it.
Okay.
I move approval of the settlement agreement dealing with litigation between Naperville Community Unit School District 203 and the City of Warrenville as discussed in closed session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of settlement agreement dealing with the litigation between Naperville Community Unit School District 203 and the City of Warrenville. So comments or questions, we'll let her.
Take your vote, and then my comments would be a result of your action.
Oh, okay, got it. Okey doke, any comments or, we're not going to have any comments on this, it's a closed session issue. Ms. Bell?
Price,
Yes.
Romberg,
Yes.
Yench,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Wanke,
Yes.
Fielding,
Yes.
Prati.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries. Thank you very much.
So I'll read a prepared statement. Naperville Community Unit School District 203 and the City of Warrenville have reached an agreement to end the ongoing Cantera TIF litigation. The school district and city have determined that the mutually agreed upon settlement recognizes the importance of moving forward together for the best interest of the residents that they serve. By order of the court, the terms of the agreement are to remain confidential.
Thank you. No business, no old business. Upcoming events, we have an exciting event on Thursday morning, a kickoff of the volunteers in the district, volunteer leadership breakfast. Hopefully everyone's RSVP'd either to Julie's department or to Ann. Wear orange. Wear orange. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just one quick introduction, if you don't mind, because Jen is here and she spent some time with us. To many Naperville residents, that's a familiar face that we have here. Jen Hannon has joined the staff at the district as a media specialist. We've redefined an existing position that we had vacant to take advantage of skills of someone such as Jen. So we look forward to her work in supporting communications and community relations, and pleased to welcome to District 203 Jen Hannon.
Welcome. Welcome. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
I motion to, second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be Monday. We'll be back on our Monday schedule on September 15th. We hope to see you then. Thanks.